So the weekend is over, Monday is here, and today we need to talk about and break down what was a big weekend for Alabama Crimson Tide recruiting, especially on the transfer portal front, because it's been no secret. Alabama is looking to add in more experienced defensive back help, especially at the cornerback position. And on Friday, we broke down several names that you needed to know. However, there have been some updates. One name didn't make it, something we need to talk about, and another name, per some high-level sources, is looking like he could be a win for the Crimson Tide coaching staff. But before we jump into all of this, y'all know the drill. I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments. Give me a Y for yes, N for no. Do you think DeShawn Jones will commit to Alabama? Let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And we're going to start with where things changed, because South Alabama linebacker Kalen Jacobs was set to visit Alabama this weekend. However, per sources, that visit has pushed to next weekend. Now, we're going to talk about the good and bad in this, right? Because I think that this is kind of a double-edged sword. I have long been of the belief that if you can get the last visit, that's a positive. But that does come with a chance that he sees something before he ever gets to your place that he likes and thinks to himself, okay, well, I'd love to be here. Remember, whenever we talk about Kalen Jacobs, he would be a huge win for Alabama because he is a very talented player and he knows Kane Wommack's defense. But at the same time, Alabama already has an incredibly dynamic inside linebacker duo, one that I have maintained will probably be a top 5 linebacker duo per every publication when we're looking at these preseason lists. So if you're Kalen Jacobs, maybe there is someone out there that you really liked and that offers more immediate playing time. That could certainly be true. It stands to reason. However, like I've always maintained, I think if you can get the last visit, that's very powerful, especially if you don't have a prospect commit before they get on campus. If Kalen Jacobs goes to Auburn, which he went to last week, he goes to Missouri this week, and then Alabama this weekend, if he makes it to Tuscaloosa, I always like getting that last visit because whenever you're going to make your decision, it's the freshest on your mind. It's the one you just came from, and the coaching staff can predicate their pitch based off of that. They can really try and knock it out the park. So this is one we're going to have to watch because let's make no mistake about this. Even though Alabama has got a dynamic 1-2 punch at inside linebacker, you would love to add Kalen Jacobs in because he's going to make this transition that much easier for every linebacker on this roster. Plus, he offers immediate depth rotation and high-level depth rotation. Now look, I've talked about this before. I think Alabama has some really intriguing inside linebackers, right? Jeremiah Alexander has continued to impress. Justin Okoronkwo on A-Day looked like a star in the making, and I'm hoping he continues to progress the way many hope and expect he will. But there is no arguing that adding in a Kalen Jacobs would just make it that much better for the room because he could start teaching these guys the defense on a different level and something we always talk about, the principal-agent relationship, why in college most of your tutors are your peers as opposed to a professor. I know I've said that many times and I apologize for the long-time viewers, but it is a point I always find pertinent. That's why I continue to bring it up. So, Kalen Jacobs is a name we will certainly keep up with. If he goes to Missouri this week, likes it, and then makes it to Tuscaloosa, I do like Alabama's chances, but once again, that's just me giving my opinion. Furthermore, we need to talk about where Alabama could have made some major gains this weekend for a cornerback prospect that the Crimson Tide were not the only big institution after him, and that's DeShawn Jones from Wake Forest, the experienced defensive back, and who would be a big win for this Alabama defense. Look, we've talked about this time and time again. Alabama has no shortage of talent at the cornerback position. They just don't have a ton of numbers, and they don't have a lot of experience. And getting in a guy like DeShawn Jones, that only adds in experience, it adds in talent, it adds in numbers, and it adds in competition, all of which, in my opinion, is a good thing to have. And when you look at this, it's going to be great for this Crimson Tide defense because one of the things I talked about whenever we talked about the need for outside cornerback play was looking back at that national championship against Georgia, a game that haunts Alabama fans to this day. And everyone wants to bring up the lack of the wide receivers who had gotten hurt. John Mechie before the game, Jamison Williams during the game, but the cornerbacks were also banged up. And to me, that drives home the point. You want as much competitive depth as you can possibly have on a roster. Getting DeShawn Jones would be a big win for the Crimson Tide. It would give them that experience. It would give them someone who's going to be pushing for starting time, and it would only elevate the competition in the room. And iron sharpens iron. This is one of the things that Nick Saban hung his hat on for years. He wanted to create an environment where he would tell these prospects, hey, nothing is guaranteed, but if you earn it, you will be given it. And what he would mean is, hey, you're going to come in here and you're going to be one of the top cornerbacks in the nation, but in this room with you are some of the other top cornerbacks in the nation, both in your respective class and in their respective class. Now, not only are you going to be battling with each other, you're going to be lining up against some of the top wide receivers in the nation. So these battles, that's what makes Alabama players so game ready, is the practice and what they go through before the whistle ever blows on Saturday. Getting DeShawn Jones only helps that bottom line. So this is something we have got to watch. This is going to be really interesting to see. Now, per reports we talked about on Friday, King Mack was also expected to visit. I'm very interested to see what ends up happening there, especially because Alabama got a safety out of the portal in Cam Howard from Charlotte. And I've talked about this before. Though it is true, you would love depth at the defensive back position, I'm not too worried about the safeties between Malachi Moore, between Red Morgan, between Keon Sabb, between Brayson Hubbard, between Dre Kirkpatrick Jr., I think there's a lot to be excited about there. It's the cornerbacks that, while I'm super excited for, I just think you need numbers because we know that football is a violent game, but SEC football, it is really intense, really violent, and you want to make sure if someone gets a little bit banged up, which knock on wood, that doesn't happen, but in the event it does, I have full confidence that I can point at the next guy and say, your turn, and we are going to be just fine. With the talent Alabama has, you add in one more name via the transfer portal, I feel like most Alabama fans would feel like that's exactly where they are. And this cornerback room has a lot of ability. Damani Jackson transferring from USC is a name I personally can't wait to see. But DeShawn Jones allows you more flexibility in this secondary, more numbers at the outside cornerback position, and that, in my opinion, is a good thing. But I can't wait to hear from all of you. Hop down to the comments. Give me a Y for yes, N for no. Do you believe DeShawn Jones commits? And then let me know. Do you think that getting the last visit for Kalen Jacobs is a good thing? I have long maintained that it is, but it is kind of a double-edged sword. They got to make it to the visit in order for you to be able to capitalize off of it. But in the event they make it, I like having something fresh in someone's mind. That's it. See ya.